Good afternoon, and thanks again for joining us for our second virtual executive board. I'd like to also join my fellow officers in welcoming PAL Aerospace to their first executive board, and we certainly look forward to greeting you in person in the near future. I'd also like to take a moment to add my condolences to the family and friends of Andy Hughes. For those of us who knew and worked with Andy, we knew him as a tireless volunteer whose heart and mind was always focused on helping not only his own pilots, but all pilots. And he will definitely be missed, and we're all saddened. Now it's time to discuss the association's financial status and how the pandemic has impacted our union and how that'll affect our members. In short, the encouraging news is that for the past few years, we have fortuitously paved the way to prepare for a crisis just like the one that hit us in March. The continued uncertainty of the spread of the virus and the arrival of the vaccine has caused the industry to make dramatic moves that in turn have affected our outlook. Here are our financial results for 2019, which provided ALPA with more than $75 million in net income. That's a direct result of our conservative budgeting, along with an extremely strong year in the industry. And that's exactly the buffer that we needed going into 2020. This year so far, through July 31st, our status, while not as strong as originally projected, is only a bit lower. We have generated an operating surplus of $59.8 million thus far, primarily because our spending has slowed dramatically while our revenue has held steady as the CARES Act delayed furloughs until October 1st. As of today, we are financially sound and able to provide our members with the vital resources they need. You heard Captains DePete, Fox, and Capt all talk about the tailored resources we've made available for our members through our pilot volunteers and supporting staff. It's truly been a remarkable effort. So let's take a little bit of a closer look. This slide shows how our monthly dues revenue compares to what we've budgeted. As I said earlier, our conservative budgeting combined with efforts undertaken by our MECs, our airlines, and our governments have helped our dues revenue trending at or slightly above budget. We have also been particularly fortunate to receive higher than expected profit sharing revenue in the first quarter of 2020. On a cumulative basis, those strong profit sharing payments have kept actual dues revenue above what was budgeted. Additionally, the nature of the pandemic has kept costs down. For example, virtual meetings such as this one have reduced the overall costs of typical expenditures that come along with in-person meetings: hotels, flight pay loss, staff travel, and more. All these items incrementally add up so that we've been able to keep our monthly expenses down and have helped us remain in a solid financial position. The same applies when we look at our year-to-date expenses versus what we have budgeted. As I mentioned in my report to you in June, we realized early on that COVID-19 was destabilizing our industry, and we held back monthly transfer of the MCF starting in February. You may remember the surplus from the 2020 budgeting was $12 million. Suspending these transfers has also assisted in our ability to have a larger financial shield. Even without the transfers, our collective, thoughtful, and conservative investment strategies have kept the MCF healthy with a balance of $96.4 million as of July 31st. As you can see, the OCF continues to rise as well, with a balance of $33 million as of July 31st and a $4.1 billion increase in 2020. So that's the current year. So now let's talk a little bit about 2021. As you all know, next year will be very different. While we largely expect the balance of 2020 to keep us financially safe and stable, the job losses due to company shutdowns and upcoming furloughs will be felt as 2021 begins unless a major change occurs. As Captain DePete discussed earlier, the U.S. Congress has the ability to pass the clean extension of the CARES payroll support program, which would give us a little bit more time to preserve our budget as the airline recalibrates and rebuilds. Thanks to all of you who have participated in the call to action in both the United States and Canada. Our lawmakers have the opportunity to help our industry and to keep us so it's up to us to keep up the pressure on them so they make the right decision. Next to safety, our union's number one priority has always been to serve our members and to continue providing essential resources to them. But as the reality of voluntary leave programs and furloughs looms across our profession and ultimately decreases our revenue, we needed to significantly cut expenses as we moved into 2021 in order to continue. So my second budget as the VP of Finance was not as fun as the first. Add to it the virtual meeting aspect, and we had the potential for a very difficult process. But the professional staff that I get to work with every single day came well prepared and remained flexible. I watched them gear up for the unexpected, knowing they needed to be responsive, accurate, and swift about relaying information. Through daily and comprehensive analysis, we were able to come up with the most up-to-date financial data. This balanced budget reflects how COVID-19 has affected the aviation industry and an economy that has experienced significant loss month after month. We have gathered the most up-to-date information from our carriers in building this budget. How many pilots will be furloughed? How many pilots will take an early out? How would furlough mitigation strategies play out at the negotiating table? How many pilots would take voluntary leaves, and how does that change their membership status? Not to mention the horrible news we received when United announced ExpressJet had lost its flying, and then added an accelerated shutdown that will happen at the end of this month. There are many sobering factors to consider, and possibly there will be many more. However, the eternal optimist in me hopes for the robust recovery and the need for us to discuss adjusting budgets upwards someday soon. Because the current situation remains so fluid, we modified the 2021 budget process accordingly. In particular, we held the approval at the Executive Council until yesterday to ensure that we had the most up-to-date information. We will send out your MEC allocations soon and to allow you to begin your budgeting process, and we will work with you to address any shortfalls. Most importantly, however, we will need to remain flexible as events occur. We will be watching trends at the national level and potentially adjusting accordingly, and we know that you'll be doing the same at your MECs. Today, the numbers I will present to you on the 2020 budget are based on that sturdy foundation of preparedness established in March and continuing to this day. For 2021, we currently anticipate dues revenue to be down. Our initial assessment projected a large decrease, and we requested national committees and departments to cut their budget by 30%. However, as the financial landscape changed over the past few months, we were able to adjust all budgets to reflect a 25% reduction from 2020. Those projections included the shrinkage of capacity at our non-cargo airlines, including Group A carriers ranging from 75 to 80% of 2019 capacity, large Group B carriers between 85 and 95%, and other Group B carriers ranging from as low as 25% up to a high of 90%, with the UL feeder carriers seeing the largest reductions, and Group C carriers with a reduction of about 65%. That calculates to a $51.9 million drop in dues revenue from a total of $206.5 million projected for 2020. Per ALPA policy, off-the-top funding is earmarked for the Canada Board, MCF, OCF, and the magazine, leaving a dues revenue of $154.6 million, which is then allocated to our operational budgeting formula, which is, again, just as a review, the ANS account gets 57%, the MECs 37.5%, LECs 2%, and the OCF 3.5%. I commend the leadership of ALPA's committees and departments for diligently and meticulously reducing expenses for next year's budget. But we have not cut, while we have not cut salaries or staff positions, travel is the second biggest expense for all departments, and we were able to significantly reduce this line item. More specifically, because of state and local restrictions, we've been able to reduce travel expenses for both staff and pilot volunteers by postponing or limiting in-person meetings and events. These changes have a rippling effect throughout the association and our budget. Overall, these changes will require a shift in how we have become accustomed to operating. For instance, if your MEC is used to having multiple staff members routinely attending meetings in person or visiting your MEC offices, that level of travel may not be able to continue in 2021. We all need to work together to adapt this new model, and we'll discuss the specifics in more details in delegate committee. You've heard Captain DePete say many times, a true test of leadership team is during a crisis. I've never been more proud to be a member of this team. We all lean on each other, our pilot volunteers, and our staff to be judicious with their dues dollars as we supply them with crucial services and resources they need right now. And we will continue to prepare for the mounting challenges that remain ahead. In closing, I hope you all continue to take care of yourselves throughout these times, and I look forward to seeing each and every one of you in person very, very soon. Thanks.